the video today, please come in and share. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. And joining me always, I consider him the best that's doing this at a high level. The reason I say this because I know the work he puts in. See, he's not like all these other guys that's covering the NFL draft and all these other, I want to say platforms. This is a guy, listen to what I'm saying. He puts enormous hours in studying film, enormous hours in scouting these players because this is what he loves to do. And I'm so blessed to have him this morning here with me week in and week out talking about these players. He comes out of Key West, Florida. Before I bring him up, his experience goes by none. He studied under Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick as a scout with the New York Jets. He's right now writing for SI, covering two teams at a high level, the Detroit Lions and the New York Jets. And most of all, what's so great about him, he's got an outstanding book, Whatever It Takes. It's his life, it's his story. And when I say this, people, it's a miracle that this gentleman is in front of me because some of the challenges that he's faced is unbelievable. So please purchase this book on Amazon. And I mean it dead serious from my heart. His book will enlighten your life and it will tell you what it means to be really strong in this life from being a human being. So, my man, coming from Key West, Florida this morning, Mr. Daniel Kelly. How are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing really well, Mr. Turner. How are you today?
Hey, I'm ready to go, man. We're ready for you to break down Mr. Daniels and tell us why he is so great on your book and why you really like him.
Well, absolutely. Jayden Daniels, lean athletic quarterback, 6'3", 175. This is a guy that, to begin with, kind of to your point about spending the time and breaking down the film. I took about 5-6 hours yesterday looking at Daniels as a quarterback. And, while the stats aren't necessarily there, I want to say this on the top of our show. College stats for a quarterback can be very misleading. You have to be careful. There's a lot of things to take in consideration because when you look at Daniel's stats, it doesn't blow you all the water. 160 out, 279, I believe, 1,970 yards right now, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. You look at the stats and say, you compare it to a Kenny Pickett or something. You're like, you know what? This isn't too great. But let me tell you something. You have to watch the film. You have to do the work. Now, I went back yesterday. I looked at him against BYU, Stanford, Utah, and Washington, and he is coached by Herm Edwards out there at ASU. Now, I worked with Coach Edwards my 4th season in the NFL with the New York Jets. I was on staff with him, and if there's one word I could use to describe Jayden Daniels, it would be smooth. That's the one word I would use in an NFL war room is smooth. Underrated quarterback, good-looking quarterback. This guy excites me, and not many people in quarterbacks or players in general do. His eyes, you always can read a quarterback, as I say every week on our show when we're talking about quarterbacks, you can read a quarterback by his eyes. He is bright-eyed. That's something that I liked about him. He is dramatically, turn up the volume, he is dramatically better than Trey Lance was coming out last year. This is a true dual threat quarterback that can make it happen with his legs or his arm. This is a guy who played 98% of the time of the shotgun formation, as most of them do in college. This is a true RPO quarterback. When I say RPO, it's a buzz phrase in the football world. It means run pass option. This is a guy who can move around and make defenses react to him. He is actually a stat that jumped out at me during one of the games. He has 19 runs this season of 10 yards or more. Does have some RG3 in him. Does have some Randall Cunningham in him. Give me Jayden Daniels any day of the week over Kenny Pickett or Sam Howell. Let me repeat that. Give me Jayden Daniels any day of the week. I'm talking to NFL ownership right now. Any day of the week over Kenny Pickett or Sam Howell. Now, Kuiper on ESPN had him ranked as the 4th best quarterback in September. Bleacher Report ranks him 7th best, 65th overall prospect currently. As Sports Illustrated said, perhaps the 5th round. I'm actually pushing a few more chips up on the table on Jayden Daniels than anybody in the national media in the country is currently saying right now. I am saying he is probably my 4th rated quarterback quarterback right now behind Matt Corral, Carson Strong, and Desmond Ridder, who we looked at last week. And yes, that's right. He's ahead of Malik Willis, who slides to number 5 on my draft board right now. I am putting a late second round, early third round grade, the highest grade in America of any analyst doing this. I am putting on Jayden Daniels. Why is he ahead of Malik Willis, you ask? There's several reasons why. He's much more pro ready. He's played against a higher level of competition. He's better at making all the pro throws at all 3 route levels, short, intermediate, and deep. And he's actually a better and a more elusive runner than Willis is. Jayden Daniels would be an ideal pick in the second or third round by the Arizona Cardinals. You stick him behind Kyler Murray, you're set for the next decade. Or the Philadelphia Eagles, put him behind Jalen Hurts, and you are set for the next decade. The positives, let's start unpacking the positives. There's a lot of positives to look at when it comes to Daniels. The thing I like about him is, like I said, he is poised in the pocket. He is somebody who has patience in the pocket. He's a smooth operator in the pocket. He brings a level of excitement to the game. This is critically important. I like his body language. He brings some tempo to things. He's not like Howard Pickett, who bring a very slow-paced and not a high-paced tempo. Tempo is something that's very underrated for a quarterback. A quarterback is the drummer of the offense. He's somebody that runs a very mean option. He runs a very mean RPO attack out of the shotgun. I like his mobility in the pocket. He can move around. He can buy some time. He can make defenses react to him, much like we used to see before pre-injury with RG3. Robert Griffin could move around and make defenses react to him. I like that. I like how he can move around and buy time. He shows he can go through his progressions. I saw the head on a swivel looking around the field. He's not just a one-trick pony that locks in and makes the college throw, which a lot of these quarterbacks who are overrated do. He's somebody who can make all the plays on the move. He's somebody who has effortless throwing motion. If you of us who are older remember Randall Cunningham, it was effortless watching him launch the ball in the pocket. It was like almost like a superhuman experience watching Randall Cunningham move around and throw in the pocket. This guy, Daniels, has the same type of effortless throwing motion. He's very fluid. He can snap off his passes, effortless release, strong enough arm to play in the National Football League. As I alluded to earlier, can make all the throws at all 3 route levels, short, intermediate, and deep. He doesn't make stupid decisions. That's another really big one. Some of these interceptions are going off receivers' hands. Of the 8 interceptions he has this year. And this is really big. You know, I don't want this to get lost in all the information. He really excels at throwing slant routes and crossing routes because he moves around. And because Daniels is moving around, it makes it harder for defensive backs to stay with the coverages the longer the play goes on. This is really big. I think this guy would be dynamite in Philadelphia. If I'm the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles right now, I got this guy targeted with a highlighter on my board, because if anything happens to Hurts, this is the type of guy that could come in and run your offense for you with that young head coach out there in Philadelphia. He has enough arm strength, Daniels does, to lace it into tighter coverages and fit the ball into tighter windows. He shows he can throw also touch passes. He's not just a guy like Trey Lance who tries to throw it at 100 miles an hour from 2 yards away. He can throw touch passes as well on the short and also the deep route. He can just lay it right in there in the breadbasket, which I like as well. He did show some ability to put deeper passes. I allude to right on the money. Not all the time. He's not money in the bank deep, but he does have this to his game. He can actually, like I said, run the ball. He's actually a running threat, a real running threat. He has the best elusiveness of any quarterback coming on this year's draft by far. He can actually make defenders miss, which is critically important. This is the type of guy that Kyle Shanahan should have drafted and passed on Trey Lance, not mortgage the future of the 49ers for Trey Lance, because this is the type of guy you could bring in their 2-quarterback system, and he could run it way better than Trey Lance ever could dream of running it because of his ability to run the ball in his feet. He shows some emotion. Daniels does. He acts like the game is actually important to him, like he actually wants to win. And he brought his team back against Washington, which I liked as well. There's negatives, of course. There's two sides of a coin in life, heads and tails. Some of the things he does need to work on. I'm not saying this is a blue chip prospect. I'm not saying this is a top 5 guy. He does have some things to work on. That's where the sweet spot for this guy is in the 3rd round, which is the developmental round for quarterbacks in the NFL draft. Some of the things he needs to work on sometimes, not a lot, but sometimes he tends to lock in with his receivers. Got to correct that. Can't do that in the NFL and make a living. I also want to see a quicker, consistent release. Sometimes the receivers look like they're waiting a little bit too long on his passes. He needs to get rid of the ball faster. The big one really is the inconsistent ball placement is my number one top concern with Jayden Daniels in this year's draft. The ball does tend to sail high on him. If it's going to be off target, it's going to probably be on the high side, which is a problem. He threw an interception I saw yesterday when it sailed right over the receiver's head. Needs to work on his accuracy. One of the things I love most, probably number one about Mac Jones coming out of Alabama last year, is Mac Jones' ball placement was right on the spot where receivers could catch it and go. This guy needs to work on that. This guy needs to work on putting the ball where the receiver needs it in order to take off and go. Another thing, too, is that, to me, he takes too many sacks for somebody with his mobility. He's got to work on that. Get out of trouble faster. Don't wait. You got to go when you start feeling the pressure. Overall, that's it for the negative side of things. Don't have a lot of complaints about this guy, or there's just something about him. I can't really put my finger on him, on what it is, but it is something that he has. There's not a lot of negatives. Overall, there's enough to work with here. I think he's coming from a Herm Edwards team. I like that. Of course, Herm Edwards, as I alluded to, I worked with my 4th season in the NFL. He started, of course, he coached under Tony Dungy, who I also interned with when Dungy was the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. I just like this young man. I think he will, I think teams will probably downgrade him somewhat because of the fact he's a little bit light. I think that as far as his weight's concerned, he's a little bit on the lean side, but in the right system, in an RPO system behind a young quarterback, this guy should be a good fit. I really like everything about him. I think he's going to be a very talented young player in the National Football League, and I think a lot of teams are going to fall asleep on this guy, and I think he's going to come back and do really well.
Yes, excuse me. Jayden Daniels, I think, is a guy that when you look at him, I like him he's from California. So it's something about them California football players, especially quarterback position. They got that little swagger about them. Like, I'm all that. I'm from California. Look at me. I want to say, I guess, Hollywood. But what I like about Jayden Daniels, to me, Daniel, is this. He improved from year to year. As a freshman, then in sophomore year during the pandemic, he kind of took a step back. But the main thing that I like about Jayden Daniels this year, and I'm not a scout, I'm just a guy that loves the game and lets you do your job, is that he's got that FBI, football intelligence. Like the young man has gotten more comfortable learning the system. And then, as you say, a rushing threat. Look how the game is changing on the next level. All these dual threat quarterbacks. It's like he's comfortable in being a guy that's improved his completion percentage this year, and then being a rushing threat. What I mean by that is being able to know when to run and gain quality yards. A little bit of, I want to say, a poor man's special Patrick Mahomes in that skill set. And man, when you look at Arizona State, Jake Plummer, Danny White, Mark Malone, Jayden Daniels probably is going to fit into that category when it's all said and done with his career on the college level in the NFL. I think this young man is going to be a really good football player at the next level. And I promise to God, he reminds me of 2 players that I've seen play in person. Take you back, DK, 1985. I'm living in Knoxville, Tennessee. Just recently moved up there, staying with my sister who attended the University of Tennessee. She said, you know what? You need to go see this young man from Tallahassee, Florida. Leon High School. You should know him, DK, because you're a big-time Washington football team fan. The guy was Tony Robinson. Go look at the film. Man, this guy kind of is similar to Tony Robinson. I looked at the film over and over again. And I saw Tony Robinson play against Auburn. And man, Jayden Daniels, I'm going to take you back here. UCLA game this year, Jayden Daniels. His performance against UCLA in that 42-23 win. 283 yards. I promise to God, it like Tony Robinson all over again. And then another gentleman he reminds me of. Smooth now, kind of with a smooth delivery. He's got a little bit of that young man that won the Heisman Trophy in 1989 out of the state of Texas. Dickinson, Texas, by the name of Andre Ware.
I remember him well.
Man, Jayden Daniels. Them the skill sets because he looks very smooth in the pocket. Very smooth, and a guy that looks like he's very, very improved his confidence level since his time under Herm Edwards. Mr. Daniel Kelly, your final words about Jayden Daniels, Arizona State University, the Sun Devils.
That's right. Where I lived for 10 years before I moved to Key West out there in Arizona. I know the area very well out in the desert there. Back when I was with the Jets, we had a grading system where we put a grade on a guy, and then we would have an arrow going up, an arrow going sideways, and an arrow going down. The arrow going up next to the grade meant he was ascending. The arrow going straight across was meant he was just basically plateaued, and the arrow going down meant his career was on the decline. Bill Parcells says, you're getting better or you're getting worse, but nobody's staying the same was one of his favorite things to say around the building when I was there. I think Jayden Daniels, he's got the grade next to him. Putting a third round grade on him is where I'm going to have him on my board. And not many players will be my board. I'm just like Bill Belichick. I'm not going to have 300-400 guys on my board who are going to play in the league. I'm going to maybe have 30 or 40 guys that can play for my team if I'm pulling the trigger. This guy is going to be on my board. This is a guy I would look at in the third round. He's a third round guy with an arrow going up, meaning ascending. There's a lot of teams are going to miss on this guy. There's a lot of draft quote unquote experts in America who are going to miss on this guy because ASU is a team that's very committed to the run, and they don't let this guy shine as much as he could if he was in more of a passing orientated offense. I like Jayden Daniels. I like everything about him. There's some things, like I said, he needs to work on. But if he goes to a team, be it like an Arizona Cardinals, stays at home and plays behind a Kyler Murray, again, if he goes to Philadelphia and sits behind Jalen Hurts, he's going to have the time, just like Kyle Trask has, who I liked last year as well, behind Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. If you let Daniels sit there for a year, 2 or 3, and he comes in the game here and there, plays in the preseason, this is a guy, if he just sits there and studies the film and breaks down the film, he's smart enough to pick up on the things he needs to do, and he's going to become a force in the National Football League. This guy, mark my words, will be a steal in the 2022 NFL Draft.
My final words about Jayden Daniels, quarterback, Arizona State. It's very simple. Like the artist Sade, he's a smooth operator. I think this young man going to be a player. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. We surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. Special thanks to our producer today that made it happen, Mr. Logan Landers. And
Thank
again,
you.
my honor, my respect. Thank you, Mr. Daniel Kelly, coming out of Key West, Florida this morning to join me here on 100 Yards Football. Y'all